Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the Belgian Grand Prix review. So after a dramatic qualifying session that left us with a fairly mixed up grid, it did look as though we were all set for a classic at Spa. However, and not for the first time this season, we were left feeling a little bit disappointed. First lap overtaking and drama aside, there really wasn't that much to keep us entertained, certainly towards the sharp end of the grid. But before we get on to any of that, let's start by having a look at our race winner. It was Sebastian Vettel who took victory at Spa fairly comfortably in the end, with all the work really done down the Kemmel Straight on that first lap. Initially, off the line, I felt like he had a fairly slow start, but that certainly wasn't the case. He stayed close to title rival Lewis Hamilton at La Source, and as the world champion himself said post-race, the Ferrari was the perfect distance behind the Mercedes to be able to go for the move on the run to Les Combes. The German did get a great run through Eau Rouge and out of Raidillon, which allowed him to get alongside the Brit down the Kemmel Straight and take the lead just before the safety car came out. Later on in the race, Hamilton did attempt to undercut Vettel. However, Ferrari reacted to the Mercedes pit stop just a lap later, and the German retained his lead by just over a second. But aside from that, and as I said a moment ago, it was a pretty comfortable afternoon for Seb, who ended the race 11 seconds up the road from the Mercedes and closed Hamilton's championship lead to just 17 points. But let's have a look at the rest of the race result. As I said there, Lewis Hamilton in second place. Max Verstappen, he recovered very well, 7th to 3rd. Really decent race from him. Valtteri Bottas, 17th on the grid to 4th. We'll talk about him briefly a little bit later on. Some really good damage limitation there from the Finns. Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon 5th and 6th respectively. Great weekend for Force India. And as you'll see a bit later in the video, that's 18 points on the board already. It was also another good weekend for Haas. Romain Grosjean, he finished in 7th place. I've been saying all week how he needs a big weekend and he's delivered again. Looks like his season really has turned. And Kevin Magnussen was just a couple of seconds further back. Pierre Gasly, more points for Toro Rosso. He finished in 9th. That Honda engine surprisingly strong this weekend. And Marcus Ericsson picked up that final point for Sauber. Carlos Sainz ended what was a very disappointing weekend for Renault, and an underwhelming one from the Spaniard. He finished in 11th place. Sergei Sirotkin at one point during the race looked like he was on for points, but will have to settle for 12th place with his teammate just behind, in what, to be honest, wasn't actually a bad race for Williams. Of course, yes, there were retirements ahead, but early on in the Grand Prix they did look really racy, particularly with each other. Brendan Hartley qualified well yesterday and looked set for a decent result, but he only managed 14th place in the end, and Stoffel Van Dorn ending what was a thoroughly miserable weekend for McLaren in 15th place. And some big names on the retirements list for the Belgian Grand Prix: Daniel Ricciardo, Kimi Raikkonen, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg. And to be honest, there is only one place to start in terms of race talking points, and that is at the start, more specifically the Turn 1 carnage. Nico Hülkenberg, by his own admission, misjudged his braking point into that first corner, locked up heavily, and that led to the Renault slamming into the back of Fernando Alonso's McLaren, which resulted in the Spaniard hitting the back of Charles Leclerc's car and ending up airborne, flying over the top of the Sauber. A huge crash. And as well as his misjudgment, Nico Hülkenberg also blamed the loss of grip caused by following cars closely into Turn 1 for the incident. The German stated, "It's just incredible to climb out again on lap 1, how sensitive these cars are with aerodynamics. When you have a few cars that bunch up in front of you, how much grip and load you lose. When I hit the brakes, obviously, I instantly locked up the front wheel and just was sliding into Fernando. Probably misjudged a bit on my side. A bit too late on the brakes, a bit too keen. Frustrating, obviously, for him, for Charles as well, and also for myself." The stewards obviously investigated the incident and gave Hülkenberg a 10-place grid penalty for this weekend's Italian Grand Prix, as well as 3 points being added to his super licence. Now, the incident has once again put safety in F1 under the spotlight and has opened up the halo debate. It is widely believed that the halo saved Charles Leclerc from serious injury or worse following the incident, and replays, including, in my opinion, a fairly conclusive frame-by-frame video, which I have linked in the description down below, show Alonso's right front wheel on a collision course with Leclerc's head before being deflected away by the head protection device. And after the race had finished, Charles Leclerc himself said the following on Twitter: "End of the race in the first corner. Frustrating. Never been a fan of the halo, but I have to say that I was very happy to have it over my head today." A number of others from the F1 paddock have spoken out, stating that they believe the halo prevented injury to Charles, including Fernando Alonso, Toto Wolff and Paddy Lowe. However, race director Charlie Whiting is erring on the side of caution and, understandably, wants to wait until he has all the information before coming to a conclusion. And when asked if he agreed with those saying that the halo saved Leclerc, he said, "I think it would be a little bit speculative, but you can see it doesn't take much imagination to think that the tyre marks could have actually been on Charles' head. It would have been a bit of a miracle if they weren't had the halo not been there. There's a huge extent of the tyre marks, as you've all seen, I'm sure. So it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think that that probably would have made contact with his head, but it is slightly speculative." And speaking after the incident, Fernando Alonso, who was of course involved in that huge accident at the same corner back in 2012, said that he believed the halo played its part in keeping the Sauber driver safe. The double world champion stated, "I flew over Leclerc's car and the halo was a very good thing to have today. Looking at the replay, I think it helped him. We didn't have any doubts about it before, but this accident shows it offers good protection." Before I move on though, I do just want to add one more thing to all of this halo debate. Whatever conclusion you have come to after seeing all the replays, it is better that we are having the debate, did it save his life, rather than would it have saved his life. I think the vast majority of you will agree that that is the most important thing here. Now, aside from Hülkenberg, Alonso and Leclerc, a number of other drivers got caught up in first corner incidents. Valtteri Bottas was another one who misjudged his braking into turn 1 as he ran into the back of Sergei Sirotkin's Williams. There was no major damage to either car and both were able to continue. However, the Finn was given a 5-second time penalty after the race for that contact, but in the end that didn't affect the overall race result. Daniel Ricciardo lost his rear wing in all the chaos, and the Aussie also made contact with Kimi Raikkonen's rear tyre quickly afterwards, and that left the Ferrari with a puncture, the Finn eventually retiring with damage. Red Bull did actually get Ricciardo's rear wing replaced, impressive teamwork there. However, with the Aussie already being lapped and no further incidents or safety cars, the team took the decision to retire him a little bit later in the Grand Prix. A few other brief talking points though. Valtteri Bottas, as I was saying in the rundown of the result, he drove very well from 17th on the grid to recover to 4th. Alright, yes, as we've seen already too often this season, it's not that hard for drivers from the top two teams to make their way back through the field, but still, he had to do the work and absolutely deserves the credit for a very good recovery. There was some great scrapping between Brendan Hartley and Marcus Ericsson. For me, it was one of the highlights of the race. Hartley did initially pass the Sauber, only for Ericsson to make a really decent move on the Toro Rosso man to get him back in La Source. However, with the aid of DRS, the Kiwi managed to get the Swede back up at Les Combes before Ericsson eventually got the job done a lap later. And I will say actually very quickly just on DRS, extending it for me was a bad idea for Spa. Yes, it gave us some overtaking, but it was far too OP in my view. And a quick mention as well for that 4-wide battle into Les Combes on lap 1 between Vettel, Hamilton, Ocon and Perez. That was such an incredible sight. It really was. And it so nearly saw us with a Force India in the lead as well. Ocon saying after the race that he only needed 1 more metre to take the lead. Could you imagine the scenes if that happened? Regardless though, what a weekend it was for those Pink Panthers. When it comes to driver of the day, Sebastian Vettel was voted as the official one by the fans. And to be honest, I think that's a fair call. I've already had my say on him in this review, but he made the move to take the lead on the first lap and controlled the race very well from there, so I would agree with that decision. However, I found it really difficult to pick my driver of the day. There were a number of very good performances, but quite frankly, for me, there wasn't one individual standout performer, if you get what I'm saying. So, whilst having a look at my team of the weekend, yes, I did just make that up, I'll give a few honourable mentions instead. Sergio Perez was solid all weekend and of course a part of that team of the weekend. He had a great qualifying on Saturday, may well have started higher if it wasn't for that mistake, but he went on to deliver in the race as well and had his teammate well under control, it has to be said. Valtteri Bottas, he's obviously got to get a shout out as well, regardless of the pace of that Mercedes or the retirements ahead. He still did go from 17th to 4th. A really good drive in the end. Both Haas drivers were solid and picked up a good haul of points for the team. Pierre Gasly again bringing home the points for Toro Rosso and, as he has been doing pretty much all season, comfortably outperformed teammate Brendan Hartley. And obviously, we've got to give Marcus Ericsson a shout as well. He grabbed a point for Sauber, plus his fight with Hartley was one of the highlights of the race, so definitely deserves a mention. Before I go then, let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship and the current Constructors' Championship standings. Lewis Hamilton stays top of the Drivers' Championship with Sebastian Vettel now though just 17 points behind. Kimi Raikkonen, no points for him this weekend after his retirement. He's still got 146 and sits third, but Valtteri Bottas is now just a couple of points behind the Ferrari. Max Verstappen's podium today sees him leapfrog Daniel Ricciardo into 5th, with the Aussie obviously dropping to 6th. Nico Hülkenberg stays in 7th place on 52 points, but Kevin Magnussen is catching him, the Dane on 49 points. Fernando Alonso is 9th on 44, and Sergio Perez rounds out the top 10 with 40 points. And in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes are top, 15 points clear of Ferrari in 2nd. Red Bull remain in a comfortable 3rd place. They're not going to catch those top 2 and they're not going to be caught. Renault are 4th on 82 points, but Haas are not a million miles away. Just 6 points adrift in 5th. That's going to get tasty. McLaren are 6th on 52 points, with Toro Rosso in 7th with 30. The point from Marcus Ericsson on Sunday takes Sauber to 19 points and has them 8th in the championship. After an impressive weekend, Force India moved to 9th with 18 points, just one off Sauber of course. And Williams still sit rock bottom on just 4 points. That is it then for the Belgian Grand Prix review. And what did you think of that race then? Did you enjoy it? Or did you find it all a little bit boring in the end? And who was your driver of the day? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Just a quick heads up, and you might be able to hear it in my voice, but I'm still not feeling well today, so there's going to be no F1 Daily tonight. I'm just going to go and take some time this evening to get over whatever this is, so massive apologies guys. Really gutted because I love doing those daily streams. But I will be back soon with another video, and F1 Daily will return tomorrow night at 8 PM UK time. In the meantime though, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.